As we said earlier, that grief and loss is very unique to individuals, and people go through different reactions. These are physical reactions, emotional, psychological, spiritual, and social. For physical reactions, you find that people may experience pains, a headache, a stomachache, even diarrhea sometimes. People may experience fatigue or more sleep. They may experience hollowness in the stomach and more sighing. You notice that because of the heaviness of what they are dealing with, the body is trying to get a way of getting a relief. The emotional reactions, the sadness, the anger, the bitterness, the guilt, the helplessness that people may go through during this time, and many other emotional reactions that people go through. There are also the cognitive reactions or mental reactions, because their mind is constantly ruminating and very preoccupied with the loss, or the person they lost, or the job they lost, or the things that they lost, and also the layers or the multiple losses that they are going through. So they may experience confusion, short-term memory, and also get intrusive dreams or intrusive memories where they may dream with the loved one, or probably if they used to dream more, they stop dreaming. Socially, people may just want to isolate themselves and avoid talking to others or being with other people, and they don't want to hear people who are close to probably their loved one, or people who remind them of their loved one talking. Spiritually, people may increase in faith, where they may become more prayerful or more spiritual, but majority, from my experience, especially teenagers, they may draw away completely from their faith, and because they may be saying, I've been trusting God, but He has not come through for me this time. I prayed, He did not answer my prayer. He still took my mom, took my dad, took my child. So many people at that point, they don't want to hear Bible verses or Quran being quoted to them, or prayers being mentioned. And this is a time where we say that we can pray away from these people, because God will still hear. In behavioral reactions, people will experience loss of interest in previously enjoyed activities. So maybe they liked watching series or movies. You notice that they don't want to do that anymore, or even exercising. They may also lack motivation to go to work, to go to their businesses or do things that they used to enjoy doing. There's also isolation, where people just want to be by themselves as well, and also avoidance. For young people, and especially young children, they will be they lacked out. They'll also get clingy sometimes. They may also regress in certain behaviors, so they may start bedwetting again, and maybe they had already stopped. Teenagers may also have more of acting out behaviors and tantrums, just like the young kids. And it is important to say that for the young children, they need to be told the truth. They need to be told, your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad, your grandma, or your auntie is no longer with us. They have gone to heaven, and they will not come back. Use a very palatable, easy language that the child may understand. Sometimes they may not understand when you use death, or you say died, because they may not be able to comprehend that. In behavioral reactions, a very important point to note is that people engage in avoidant behavior, in negative coping mechanisms, such as use of substances, use of alcohol. They were drinking, but now they drink more because they want to numb themselves. There's also high use of prescription medication, especially pain medication or sleep aids. And it is good to say, or important to say, that if we need to sleep better, it is okay to go and see a doctor who can prescribe to you healthy sleep aids that you can use. See a psychiatrist, because it is usually very, very heavy, and you do not need to suffer by not sleeping every other day, a week and another week, because that can lead to other complications. And as we go through loss and grief reactions, it is good to say that there is what we call normal grief reactions, as we have mentioned them, where we are still able to adjust and move on with our life. We are able to eat, we are able to go to our work, we are able to parent our children, the kids are able to go to school. And if we are not able to do all that, if we are not able to adjust, probably within a month or so, not to a full capacity, but in a way that we are able to slowly adjust to going back to normalcy, to doing our jobs, to doing our businesses and the things that we were doing before. If we are totally incapacitated to do that, then we could be bordering on getting into complicated grief. And this is when we need to seek help. Visit a professional who can walk you through how to cope with your loss and grief. For the family, we said that loss and grief is very unique. We find that siblings will mourn differently, people will mourn differently. So if you are the one who cries more because of your personality, let us not assume the person who is not crying is not in mourning or is not mourning. People process grief differently. People will be at different stages of loss and grief. Some in denial, so they will not be crying. Others will be in depression, so they will be crying so much. So we need to understand as family members, as we go through this, how do we support one another? One of the things I advocate as I work with family members is to just sit together and talk about what we have lost, how we have to adjust. The loved one we have lost, just going through the memories of the one we lost and noticing what is happening to everyone. Because sometimes we assume the ones who are quiet, the ones who are not crying are not in mourning, but they are, and they are suffering. So sitting together as a family, and for the community and the neighbors, respecting family time when family can sit together and mourn their loved one in their unique way. For the community and friends and extended family, that we need to understand the needs of the individual or the need of the family that is bereaved. This can range from physical needs, that is in terms of food, in terms of duties at home, such as cleaning, in terms of financial need. Maybe they have a big bill that needs to be paid or a huge bill that needs to be cleared, and they need to be supported. Because of the social isolation, we are not able to visit with these people, but you can prepare a meal from your home and deliver it to this family, and you probably don't need to sit with them. You can call them and fellowship with them and talk with them and get to hear what they are going through. Sometimes, as we observe the COVID-19 protocols as given by the Ministry of Health, that we can just wear our mask and keep ourselves sanitized and just show up and sit with them and be there with them in silence. If they want to talk, that someone they can talk to. If they're not willing to talk, then we can get ourselves busy around the house and do some chores and support them. It is important that we know as a community and as extended family and friends, there are certain things, cliches that we use that we should not use at all during loss and grief. Some of the cliches that people use that are very unhelpful is, it is well. And most of the time it is well with what? This person is in pain. Others is that your mom, your dad had lived a full life, and therefore we just need to celebrate their life. This person has lost a parent, whether they were 90 years or 80 years, they probably are going through some pain. If it is a young couple, they have lost their child, we constantly tell them, no, you'll get another child. No, even if they get another child, it is not exact child they lost that they'll get. So these cliches don't help the people who have lost a loved one or lost their job. Other cliches may be like God is in control, and in their mind what's going on is, where was he when my loved one was dying? It is God's will. Okay, God hates me this much to have killed my parent. So it is good that we know what would be going on in the mind of the bereaved when we're using some of these statements. A few of positive statements that we can use to show support, to acknowledge that it is difficult for you as well, that you're there for them and you can meet them, and as you say hi to them, you can tell them, I cannot even begin to understand what is going on with you right now. this must be very difficult for you, and I am here to support you. You can just sit with them there in silence. I know it gets very awkward when people are not having a conversation, and we constantly want to fill up silent moments with conversations, but most of the time the conversations are not very helpful. But we need to keep checking on one another and knowing what we can say and what not to say. This is not the time to quote Bible verses. This is not the time to tell them sometimes about God, or even to impose our spiritual values then, because they are feeling lost and they are feeling like God deserted them. We can pray away from them because God will still hear our prayers. Other things sometimes we discourage bereaved people from doing is telling them not to be angry at God. And I mean, God can see their thoughts, can see their questions. So we need not discourage people. Go to God as you are, as an individual. Let your family go to God as they are, depending on what they are experiencing and their pain. And tell God, I am here. I don't even know what to say. I don't even know how to pray, because that also helps them to process their grief and loss. Allow the bereaved person to talk about their loss without you talking about your own loss. As they share about their loss, that is not your time to talk about their loss. Theirs is immediate and they're going through pain, and therefore it is important that we listen to them and not minimize their loss by bringing up our loss at that point. And also be there for others financially. I know this is a very difficult time, because you notice that especially in our setting, you'll find that you are in about 5 WhatsApp group where a bereaved family needing support, financial support, because probably they had a hospital bill that is quite heavy, and we can come through for each other in whatever a small way we can. That it is important that we look for support from friends or wherever after the burial. This is a time when everybody goes back to their usual business, their usual work and life, and the bereaved family is just left alone. And because now there is more quiet, they are more alone, this is time that they go through a lot of pain as they reflect on their losses. And this is the time they may need more support. This is the time to look out for them, to reach out to them and support them in whatever way they may need to be supported. This is the time they may need to talk. This is the time they may have waded through the stages of loss and grief, and they have moved from the denial, and now they are probably in depression or even in bargaining. And just listening to them talk about these things without us having answers, we are just availing ourselves to listen to them. If you notice that they are going through complicated grief, support them even to seek counseling, even pay for them, take them to therapy, and also for professionals to be able once in a while to give the pro bono services to families that may not even be able to afford the cost for therapy. And as we do this as a family, and especially during this time, we'll be able to support one another. We'll be able to give each other a shoulder to cry on, so that we can be able to go through this season, because we don't know how long this COVID-19 pandemic is going to be with us. And as we have seen, that it has complicated other things. It has even complicated loss and grief even more. So we need to also adjust the way we cope with loss and grief, how we adapt to loss and grief, and be able to adjust to living without the people we have lost, to living without the status we have had there previously because of our jobs, or financial ability that we had because of our jobs, be able to adjust accordingly and live a sort of a normal life and be able to be productive and meaningful. Thank you for listening. Please look out for our next video that we are going to share about anticipatory loss that people are also experiencing today, and see how we can help us and help everybody to cope with anticipatory loss. Kindly share this video with others, just for us to create awareness about what we go through in loss and grief and how we can cope positively, because we will all go through loss and grief at one point or another in life. So knowing how to go about it is going to help us cope positively and be there for one another. Look out for our next episode.